Hi there, Presley here. I recently completed Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time. I achieved the Platinum Trophy and unlocked the 106% bonus ending. I wish I recorded my reaction, but just to give you a little demonstration of what it was like, it was kind of like...
This could be the most dramatic story of the season. It's Torres to give Chelsea a place in the Champions League final. The headline has been written.
Oh, that's it? The reason why I had such a nonchalant reaction towards the game is because it was a great game, but there were several things wrong with the game that made me think, how would I improve the next Crash Bandicoot game? With the critical and commercial success of Crash Bandicoot 4, Crash Bandicoot 5 is a dead certainty. Let's look at ways we could improve the next Crash game. The first thing that I believe needs to be done is the game needs to go back to basics. There were so many features and gameplay elements to Crash 4. This could have been overwhelming for the players. There were so many different elements to the game, such as the masks that alter the world in different ways. Now, variety is a good thing, but there may have been too much of a variety in Crash 4. Firstly, we had the masks that change the world in different ways in which you use them. One of the masks flips gravity, another one phases different objects in and out of the game, another one slows down time, and the final one kind of gives you this ultra spin, which doesn't really alter the world, but you know what I mean. On top of this, there were the 4 different characters which you can control in the game. Each character had very different gameplay from another. Sometimes you would switch characters mid-level. This led to a lot of context switching, where you would be focused using one player's gameplay and have to switch to a completely different style of gameplay mid-level. Again, variety is a good thing, but this thing definitely distracted from the good parts of the game. By going back to basics, we can reduce or completely eliminate all the different character types that you can play as. Go back to just Crash and Coco. I think a lot of the level design in Crash 4 was absolutely amazing and could have worked really well just playing as Crash and Coco. Another very important aspect of the game that needs to be addressed is the difficulty. Crash Bandicoot 4 was notoriously difficult. Crash Bandicoot 4 is in fact difficult for a Crash Bandicoot game, and this is a notoriously difficult series. Check out a video of this guy rage quitting after Cortex Castle.
I press the button, it doesn't respond. Nothing responds! Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me when I can't even see what's above? Doesn't slide when it needs to slide. Whoa! This game. Didn't even activate. Didn't even activate. What the? Whoa! You're a second too slow, everything goes to. Whoa! I pressed the button, nothing. What the? Whoa! No! Why? Why? Whoa! This game. Whoa! This game.
On the case, the game says 12 plus, but I know most adults who could not even complete this game. That's how difficult it was. So a good solution for Crash 5 would be to tone down the difficulty, make it slightly easier. It's okay to have certain levels that are extremely difficult, but there were just so many in Crash 4. For example, Toxic Tunnels, absolute nightmare. Cortex Castle, seeing double, the list goes on. What made most of these levels harder was the insanely perfect relics that were introduced in the game. Now, I think these are a fantastic feature and should continue in the next Crash Bandicoot games. Another thing which made it so difficult was the platinum times for the platinum relics. A lot of them were just completely unforgiving. A simple way this can be improved is by making the gold relics the standard for the maximum completion, like with the Insane Trilogy. Another thing which made the levels incredibly difficult is actually linked to my next point. The levels were simply too long. We just need to look at the time trial times for most of these levels and compare it with the time trial times for previous games. The insanely perfect relics would be so much fairer to achieve if the levels were a lot shorter. It's clearly a lot easier to play 2-minute level perfectly than say 3, 4, 5, 6-minute level perfectly. So I like to think of Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time as the first game in a new trilogy. I see Crash 4, 5 and 6 being the equivalent of Crash 1, 2 and 3. Crash Bandicoot 1 was the most difficult game of the original trilogy. I see Crash Bandicoot 4 being the most difficult game of the next trilogy. So Crash 5 would have more comparisons with say Crash 2 if this were the case. One of those comparisons I'd like to keep would be the warp rooms from Crash 2. Where Crash Bandicoot 4 had the island map as a throwback to Crash 1, I would like to see Crash 5 have the warp rooms as a throwback to Crash 2. This was just a fun little hub to play around in as you level select. And of course there could be little secrets in there as well. As you could remember, if you jump on the polar bear's head, you get 99 lives. It would be good to see these kind of things be brought back for the next Crash game. Another change I'd like to see for Crash 5 is no more inverted levels. We're essentially playing the same level just with a filter on. The inverted levels just diluted the game. It was this constant repetition that made the game feel a bit tiresome at times. Even though I'd like to leave the inverted levels in Crash 4, one thing I would like to bring from Crash 4 into Crash 5 is the flashback tapes. In most levels, if you get to a certain part of the level without dying, you could collect a flashback tape. In turn, this would unlock a flashback level. These flashback levels were short puzzle-like challenges. I found the flashback levels one of the most entertaining parts of the game. They had the right amount of challenge and they were short enough to enjoy. They also provided an insight into the background of both Crash and Coco, which were good for fans. One thing that could be reintroduced into the series that could work like the flashback tapes are the death routes. These were first introduced in Crash 2. If you get to a certain part in the level without dying, you could hop onto the platform and be taken to a more difficult part of the level. Sometimes this will have crates or a gem that you'd need to collect. It would be fantastic to see the reintroduction of these in Crash 5. Though I said earlier that I'd like to see the game go back to basics, there are certain elements that I'd like to see added for variety of gameplay. One such element is the underwater levels. Now, did I like these in Crash 3? No. But it did add variety to the game. Another improvement that could be added for variety is the reintroduction of vehicle levels, such as the jet ski level in Crash 3 or the jetpack level. These types of levels would make a good replacement if the character levels were taken out. The final thing I'd like to see in Crash 5 may be a controversial one, and that's no more masks. The special masks in Crash 4 are what made Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time unique. Those unique elements should stay in that game. Crash Bandicoot 5 shouldn't be an imitation of what made Crash 4 great. Crash Bandicoot 5 should have its own unique selling point that is tied into that game's specific story. Sure, it would be great for the masks to make an appearance, say in very specific levels. For example, there could be one level where you have the mask that controls time. There could be one level where you use the mask that controls gravity, etc. But to have them as the main attraction of Crash 5, where they appear in almost every level, that would just make the game seem like a poor imitation of Crash 4. And there you have it, 10 features I would like to see in Crash Bandicoot 5. Let me know what you think in the comments section. What things would you like to see in the next Crash Bandicoot game? Once again, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. The top comment from my last video was made by Chaos Saint. You could see that comment on screen now. Very thought-provoking stuff. Once again, the best comment gets a shout out in the next video. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.